adjust. So you know what that means. We are a little bit late. It is my fault. EJ the Collector is here and he was ready to go. But as always, welcome to Wrestling Chat with Friends. This is the Thursday show. This is the AEW show. So we'll be talking all things AEW. And as I mentioned, I am joined by the homie, the right-hand man, if you will, main event, EJ the Collector. How you feeling?
I am here. I am present. I am accounted for, and I am accountable. Good to see you. Good to see all of our friends out there. Welcome to the show. We'll get Collector's Choice out of the way because we got a lot to talk about tonight. You know, I'm still dealing with the loss of Bray Wyatt. I still think about him and think about his matches. I've done a lot of YouTube searches. And right after he passed away on WWE Shop, there was an announcement they were going to donate all proceeds from his merchandise to the family. Now, I think like most merch deals that WWE talent get, it's like 5% of merch sales. I'm sure some top stars get better deals, but from going from 5% to 100% is a strong gesture by WWE. So there wasn't a whole lot on the site, but what I did pick up were a couple of plaques. This one is from Elimination Chamber in 2017 when he won, I guess, his first championship probably. So there's that. And I picked up a return that we talked about a lot for weeks last year when he returned at Extreme Rules, made his presence felt. So I wanted a picture of him. I wanted the lantern. This is from, 2022 in Philadelphia. We returned. So these are nice, just some plaques to honor him. But main reason I did it was for the family, little piece I could do to contribute. But we're here to talk AEW, and we do have a lot to talk about. Little disclaimer, I'm going to do some humble bragging tonight. You know,
All right.
anyone who knows me knows I love to talk about myself. So we'll do a little humble brag, but let's get it on. Cheats, what's on your mind tonight?
I mean, are you going to do the humble brag now, or are you going to do it in the course of the show? I'm trying to understand.
Well, it's about a certain topic that I know we'll get to, so it'll happen organically.
It'll happen organically. Well, let's talk about AEW. Let's talk. So last time we visited, obviously the news had just broke. We had our good buddy Doug on, and that show is actually, for the first time I think since last August, that show is actually on podcast everywhere it's available. I actually put it up. So, but we're gonna try to put the shows up on the podcast. There were a couple people that did stream it.
Apple, Spotify,
everywhere. It comes out. It comes up on. It comes out everywhere. But we hadn't been putting those shows. You could only catch them on YouTube after the fact, and now you could catch last week's show because it was such a hot topic. We did talk about all things, all in, all out, and all the aftermath in CM Punk. So I say all that to set it up to where we are right now. We are now a full kind of week removed, if you will, from the dismissal of Punk, and you're starting to see if you take all of the dirt sheet behind the curtain, smoke and mirrors that always come with AEW. If you start to take all of that away, you are starting to see, I think, for the first time in a really long time in 2023. So we're already at September, and it's a long setup to say, I think you're starting to see for the first time multiple storylines that the creative is really starting to put together that I think actually have legs as we go into the final quarter of this year. There's so many of them to talk about that I'm actually excited about. They're not just, I'm going to start with what we're doing with Ricky Starks.
Sure.
Because I actually really enjoy what's happening with Ricky Starks and where he is. And, you know, we got a kind of a surprise, if you will, strap match between the returning Bryan Danielson, Ricky Starks, that turned out to be bloody, turned out to be exciting, turns out to be a match that Danielson goes over. But Ricky Starks, and this is what I like now, and this is, I think, a little bit different, but I think this is what I think starts to prove that AEW is kind of figuring something out. Starks takes the loss, but I think in the old AEW creative sphere, they would have dropped that, it would have been over, and it would have been done. And we would have been like, all right, what are we going to do with Starks now? Well, no. This time around, if you notice, Starks comes out, has a really great like promo vignette about the fact that he did lose, but he didn't tap out, and he's still like the main, like he's still like this guy that's going to deliver everything that he's got. And it was just like the way I saw it, and it's like, this isn't over. Like the Starks Danielson thing might not be over. And I'm sitting here like, I really like what they're doing with Ricky Starks right now. And I didn't know if you picked up on that. Let's talk about Starks Danielson, where we go with Starks direction. But for the first time in a while, I'm like, we might have something here.
I think you're feeling that with that and probably a couple of other things. I think the overall feeling, and what I'll say is, what you're talking about a Turner cornering, a corner turning, or
possibly. We've been teased before.
Yes, I think it's a very small sample size so far because the smoke is just starting to settle. But I will say, with at least Collision last night and a couple of storylines that are coming out of All Out, one being Starks and Danielson, yes, I see those storylines developing, and you add that to a little bit of understanding that there might now, for the first time in a long time, be some calmness, and everybody is maybe coalescing on the same page, that if these storylines, if things are calm, if it's as calm as AEW can possibly be, these storylines can bring us some amazing weeks and months of wrestling. There are a bunch. Starks wasn't the first one that came to mind, but I'll say this. They had an excellent match. It certainly would appear from All Out and the Collision prior that Danielson may be slipping into a main role. I mean, it just looked like it, possibly because he subbed in for probably what Punk was going to do with Ricky Starks going forward. But that sounds like a good idea. Danielson's probably one of the steadiest talents they have there. So this is going to help Ricky Starks. And the key is, you got to have something this Saturday on Collision. They can't even go 2 weeks at this point. They can't give Starks a week off and just have him not be part of the show. Something like that has to be week in and week out for at least a month, at least through New York, in order for, because if they drop it, if you don't see him for 2 weeks and then you try to revisit Danielson, you've already lost momentum. They have to build on things week after week and have consistent stories being told on consistent shows for consistent weeks, not just bringing in these one-offs that they've been hot-shotting basically their entire existence.
And I guess what gives me optimism about this, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I didn't get the feeling like this was a one-off. Where I think in AEW past, and I'll tell you specifically why. It's specifically because of the promo. The promo vignette that they cut last night on Dynamite with Starks saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, almost getting like a victory and defeat, if you will.
There is no reason not to feature Starks in a main program on what still is, and we'll see as the viewership rolls in week after week if Collision goes the way of Rampage or if Collision goes the way of Dynamite. If it goes the way of Dynamite, we should expect at least as consistent ratings, and you have the talent there to pull it off. So yes, Stark should be, along with Danielson and a lot of other guys I can mention, the people they're currently highlighting, like Bullet Club Gold.
Love them.
They love them. They should be featured prominently on Collision anyway. And the fact that CM Punk isn't there, they have to capitalize. And it looks like they at least realize that, because the guys who are supposed to be there at the top currently are at the top. And that gives me a lot of optimism also. So, we don't know any backstage stuff, but at least from last Collision through Dynamite, post Punk, things look steady and exciting.
I'm going to get back to storylines and characters that I like. But you mentioned something about Collision and going the way of Rampage or going the way of Dynamite. It was reported, we have to kind of mention this, last Saturday's Collision drew the lowest rating in the show history. Now that Collision faced direct competition with WWE Payback and college football.
Absolutely.
But the numbers on Collision were really, really dismal. Again, you're going to get, there's not that many wrestling fans in the world, and there's way more college football fans.
100%.
And I know this because I didn't even watch Payback. We were talking about this. I watched Collision and college football, and I didn't watch Payback until after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a tough Saturday night now. from today
Yeah.
until when is the national championship game? So Saturday night now, from today until the end of the college football season national championship is going to be murder.
Even more important to maximize every opportunity. The only number that I found interesting, this was also reported. I assume they can figure this out. I did some research study on how Nielsen ratings work and how that works. It was actually kind of fascinating. They knew that 92,000 TV sets shut off after the Punk announcement. So take that for what it's worth too. That's going to happen. That is roughly almost 20% of their Collision audience usual. So yes, there are lots of boulders on this mountain that they need to climb. But
you know what though? What I hear from
you and a lot of people have agreed that that's a worthwhile risk to take.
Yeah.
I don't wholly subscribe to it, but I am eternally optimistic. I'm really not going to try to worry myself with backstage politics because they have a lot of hills to climb, and I really want AEW to succeed. So I'm going to be all for it positive going forward.
So here's the thing, though, and you were talking about this in the right context. They had to know this, right? So you're booking a Saturday night show. No, I'm not talking about Punk.
Oh, I got you.
I'm not talking about that at all.
Tony Khan has talked about what football is as a competition.
Right.
Yeah.
Saturday night, you're going up against college football.
Yep.
I mean, the smart guys know, the smart TV guys, not even wrestling guys, but smart TV guys know, hey, look, your direct competitor has now slotted, several pay-per-views on Saturday. You know what I mean? It's not just one or two now. Like, it's a Saturday thing. And you're booking a regular Saturday night, show program. It's not like it was a special night. It wasn't like a paper, you know what I mean? I think I will say, just to piggyback off what you said, and we'll move forward. I think the 92,000 was much more about just the intrigue. Like, I don't know if those 92,000, like
it wasn't fans that were waiting to see that, whether they knew or not, and either were surprised and shut it off.
That wasn't a protest turnoff. That was a let me hear what Tony Khan's gonna say. Very much like, and to their credit, Evil Empire, if you will, Vince McMahon knew for like 3 weeks in a row that he was like in it. He was the story. He was the heat. And what did he do? He made announcements that he was going to be on SmackDown. He made announcements that he was going to open Raw. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was all kayfabe, but we were all trying to figure out, like, is this guy going to really say something? Like, he's stepping down? Is he going to retire? But he had us on the hook for like 3 weeks, remember?
I do. Let's put a. We will move on.
Okay.
Put a pin in this thought. We'll talk about either on the Tuesday show in a couple of weeks. But I read something great today online, and I'll find the source so I can quote them about. There's been a lot of dream scenarios about Punk possibly going back to WWE. I don't think it's going to happen. But I did read someone who posted a conceivable storyline for his return, and honestly, it was awesome. Well, so we'll talk about that another time.
Let's finish up on this though. Are you concerned about the Collision numbers at all?
No, because I'm not a television executive. I'm not sure to the point of I want to watch my AEW on Saturday nights.
No, I still think it's the best show.
However, ratings come into their next contract, I do not think that in the next 2 or 3 years, Turner's going to cut bait on AEW. It's going to be around. So, it doesn't really matter to me if 211,000 people watch it and everyone poo-poos it, or if 594,000 people watch it and it's considered great. I hope for the latter, but
I think we want the show to do well.
Yeah,
I think the idea is, for me, AEW Collision is the best weekly show that I see in wrestling.
I agree. It's my favorite show as well.
It's my favorite show, and I want it to do well.
Yep.
I am a little concerned, not necessarily about last week, but I am concerned about going up against college football because it's just such a juggernaut.
What's your investment in that? What are you worried is going to happen if
I think
ratings are terrible?
I think. I don't know. That's the thing. Because here's the thing: this Saturday night coming up, guess what it's going up against? Do you know?
I'm sure a top
Texas, Alabama.
Top 5 versus
Texas at Alabama. That's what you're going up against. And as much as I love Collision, Probably going to watch them in Texas, Alabama too.
So this just raises the question of how important the ratings are, because a lot of AEW fans who are at that game, live in Texas, going to watch that game. They're gonna catch it on. They're gonna update themselves.
We're gonna DVR Collision and go back and watch it.
So
does that matter for Nielsen ratings? I don't know.
I don't know how much Nielsen ratings are the end all be all anymore. The TV landscape has changed a lot, but whatever fear from low Nielsen ratings, I don't think are going to affect my enjoyment of the product.
No.
So from that standpoint, that's why I'm not worried or thinking about, it's going against football. I don't work for Turner. I don't work for AEW. It's not my, so just like, where's a fan? How much should you invest as a fan in that worry?
I don't know. I enjoy the show. That's not even a part of it. I do not. I guess my only trajectory is exactly what we're talking about in this context, which is you don't like waking up to headlines that say lowest AEW ratings in the history of Collision. You hate that.
Absolutely. Well, if nothing else, as a wrestling fan, I hope it inspires them to have really big moments on Saturday night.
That's the thing, though. That's I love it. And again, we'll get off of this. I promise.
I know.
But it's like, no matter what they do, they could bring back. they could bring. I don't know, Pedro Morales from the great. I don't know, but they're not going to beat college football in America. They're not going to be.
The desire for them to blow their wads on Saturday night and have exciting returns and stuff is for my edification only. This is where I'm being selfish. Like, I don't care. I don't care if they're trying to peel fans away by having these great moments.
Yeah.
I want them to be motivated to do it.
Think about it. Even WWE back in the day, the Saturday night main event, it came on like after SNL.
It's 4 times a year or 6, whatever they did.
It was so late.
It preempted SNL.
But it was late. It was not. Hey,
man, you're right. But in my years, I get it. The thing that was awesome about Sunday's main event as a kid and a wrestling fan was, and having parents who were Saturday Night Live fans, we were going to watch the cold open of SNL anyway. So those 4 times a year. Before the internet, you knew it was happening. When it showed in SNL is being, my brother and I would freak out because, oh my God, we're getting an hour and a half of Hogan and Andre.
Yeah, but here's the thing:
Savage and Steamboat.
If you were like my household, you had no idea what was going to happen. You just turned it on and you're like, oh snap! It's Saturday night. Like, you had no clue when those special WWE events were going to happen.
I think you didn't know. I think I became an SNL fan because I watched 11:30 every Saturday night, hoping it was one of those weeks when Saturday main event came on.
All right, so let's play some games and we'll go back to the show. We talked about like it, we don't like it. We really like what they're doing with Ricky Starks. One thing that blew my mind post Dynamite last night.
Mm-hmm.
Was the amount of people that actually was like falling over themselves saying they loved what Toni Storm is doing.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't look at the new Toni Storm, the kind of Hollywood Marilyn Monroe diva Toni Storm, like this kind of character arc. I didn't look at this as like, oh, she's doing some defining best work of her life type stuff. But they love the accent, the aloofness, the shoe throwing at Renee last night. They thought it was like, there's 2 promos that got a lot of buzz today.
Yeah.
And Toni Storm was one of them. So I'm going to ask you, like or dislike what they're doing with Toni Storm?
I kind of dig it. Like, I'm not turned off by it at all. I'm kind of hoping, and I saw this online that like, is she doing a tip of the cap to the Turner Classic Movie Channel with that sort of person? It's a great thought. Like, yeah, I like her interactions with Renee because I like Renee so much. I was really pretty vanilla on Toni Storm before and didn't like her as the character. And I'm not crazy about this character with Saraya and Toni Storm. What do they call it again? Remind me. What's the
Outcast?
The Outcast. Yeah. Not a huge fan of that. I think I like each of them individually on their own better. But yes, I think she's nice to look at. She's given some really clever, funny things to say, and her interaction with Renee is a true pro. I'm thumbs up on it for now. It's not getting me out of my chair, but sure, I'd rather have that than her roll out.
Am I crazy? Because I mean, literally, I was on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, and they were all saying
100%. Yeah.
this is now. And again, you'd alluded to it. We all know Toni Storm makes way more money from posting pictures than she does from wrestling.
Perhaps. Yeah.
But that's a compliment to her. It just means she's a
Mm-hmm.
very attractive wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know. Like, I will say this version of Toni Storm goes to her glam side, goes to her beauty side, goes to, like, it's not like I'm kind of the outcast, like, leather jacket Toni Storm.
Right. I champion all the women of AEW. You know, I was a little disheartened while seeing all those positive comments about her. There were a lot of reports that the other women who aren't Britt, who aren't Toni, who aren't Sheeta were getting criticisms. There was criticism of the Statlander match last night, which I thought was just fine. Great. I really like Chris Statlander. All the women there are busting their ass right now. It's the best, amongst the best women's divisions going, I think. I think it's right up there with WWE. And I think more women should be celebrated because while I saw a lot of Toni Storm compliments, I saw a lot of criticisms to the other wrestlers too on the women's roster.
So that's a good question that you bring up, because here's the thing. I am not critical of the talent in the division as much as I'm critical of AEW not highlighting the division.
That's well, I agree with you, and I think that's the focus.
I think they're atrocious. I think what they've done to the AEW women's division is horrible. And we said this because they only had like one women's match on All In, right? Like
criminally underappreciated and and not enough focus on them. And you know, right. So that's where my ire is directed. But it was just disheartening to see some posts just about the fans criticizing the quality of it too, of the women themselves. And of course, that's just the online culture and trolls. But that bugged me too, just as in the context of seeing a lot of praise for Toni. They're all great. Support them all. Give them all more time. Toni. Yeah. Khan, not Storm.
I mean, here's the thing. Again, I think that there is talent there. Yeah. I do not think it's as talented as the WWE. I don't even think it's close.
Okay.
But there is talent there that if used, not used properly, if used at all, would be much better. We cannot on this show talk enough about Nyla Rose. And if we do, it's not enough because she is extremely funny, extremely talented. He's smart, comes out with really great creative. And I love her. Like, I think she's phenomenal. One, she should be up there. Everybody like understands that they are pushing Willow, but Willow should be like, why isn't Willow feuding with Nyla Rose? Why isn't there like something in the creative mindset that gets, a big face and a big heel together? We don't even know where Athena is. Athena's like one of the most talented people.
Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. Ring of Honor is just sort of a no man's land.
Right. If you're gonna bring back Thunder Rosa in any capacity, and she says she can wrestle, like, where is Serena Deeb? Is she hurt? Dead? Like, I don't know. Like, what is going on with this women's division? And remember, at the time they were like, Madison Rain's gonna come and straighten this whole thing out. Madison Rain put herself in a bunch of matches to get beat up, and then we haven't even seen like. This women's division, I do think, has talent. I will, again, I don't think it's as talented as WWE, and I don't think their top stars. Where's Dina Peraza? Is she still over at Impact? Because it's like, if they've got Trinity and Impact over there, they've got some big, like, super talented people out in Impact's women's division as well. So, I mean, I think that it could be better, and let's not miss the biggest star that they have, which we haven't seen in months.
There was a great update about her, though.
Okay, what is the update on Jade Cargill? Because I need to know where Jade is.
Well, the update is she gave an interview I will find all these and credit the right sources, basically saying that Tony Khan's the best boss, that she can text him, he'll answer. She really put over AEW, but that she's not hurt. She's taking a break, and Both Tony said in the interview, they expect her back soon. That probably is a personal choice in conjunction with being creative, like a lot of things are. I think we will get her after New York. She may return to New York. So it's good to hear she wasn't hurt. It's good to hear that she still feels, at least as stating, she feels good about her relationship with AEW and that there's no place where she'd rather be. So we'll just take it with that and
take it with a grain of
yeah,
salt, man. But we need Jade in that division.
couldn't
Jade in
agree
that
more.
division changes the entire it
We've
changes the entire division.
never seen Jade in a world title program.
No. And
Right.
when she
So,
had the TBS belt, it was a bigger belt than the World Championship belt.
yeah, it is clear that when she does return, that's where you put her. Whether it's it won't be, it may not be, it'll be maybe be Saraya, maybe Tony Storm, who knows? But yeah, that's the future, and that can set up a lot of good, interesting possibilities.
All right, so we've got Ricky Starks. You like it? We got Tony Storm. You don't love it, but you don't hate it. You're not mad.
No, not at all.
The other promo last night that got a lot of comments, gumption, credit, and I will also say, I will start by saying I did not love this, but it was the Swerve Strickland Hangman Page budding storyline. First time that they were in the ring together. First time they did the promo. Swerve comes out, really cuts a promo now.
Did
he cut a
absolutely
promo,
yeah,
a
promo that
Hangman.
A promo that had a lot of truth behind it too.
Right, and so, do you like where we're going here with Swerve? That's because I look at this story, and to me, now this could be my personal selfishness and bias, but to me, it's a Swerve story, and Hangman is the guy that's there. But it was like, we need to figure out what we're going to do with Swerve. All right, let's put him with Hangman. It's not, to me, in my mind, it's not, we need to do something with Hangman. And I think the cool thing about the Swerve promo was it kind of alluded to that. Like, Hangman, you've just been opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And it's like, we never get those. And so, where do you like this kind of budding rivalry? Do you like this, or do you feel like they're still misusing Swerve?
I'll say I don't like it, but that's not really as harsh as it sounds. I like the idea of Swerve being out there and cutting a deep promo on somebody. I like that. I like Adam Page enough. He's a top talent, kind of an OG. When I was watching that, most of what I was feeling was, man, Swerve's telling the truth. In a great creative way to create a program. My criticism is, I just don't think this program particularly benefits either one of them. So it's sort of another situation where you can make a storyline interesting to have it carry on to each wrestler's next storyline, but there's just not enough track record to just sit back and know it's going to be great. It can be, if they use Swerve the right way, and they haven't to this point. I just don't think this is a launching pad for Swerve that's going to help him enough. It's going to put him into something with Darby again, or it's not going to put him with the top talents yet. It's not going to put him into a program with Moxley, which would be great if he was going after a title belt. And for Hangman, this is probably done to reignite the passion for Hangman, and it's probably going to end up in a Hangman title run more than a Swerve run. And like you, I think it should be the other way around.
I do. And, there's something about Swerve in AEW so far where it's like, I get so excited because I do think they're going to figure it out. They put him with Keith Lee at first. I was like, hey, this might be something where it was like tag team champs and they turn on each other. Then they have a big feud. Never really happened.
Never happened.
Then he came up with this stupid mogul embassy thing where it was like, he's the mogul with the two white guys, not. And then they were like, all right, well, that's not going to work. Let's put him with Prince Nana and Brian Cage and make a new kind of embassy thing, right? You know what I mean?
All has potential.
Mogul affiliates went to Mogul Embassy. That's what happened because they realized the affiliates sucked.
Right.
And I'm just like, bro. And then I actually did get optimistic because it's like, kind of like you mentioned it, kind of like CM Punk and Samoa Joe, or two guys where you could really just lay like they have a lot of history. Let's just throw them FTR and Young Bucks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you put Swerve and Darby together,
that's where I got optimistic too.
That's where I get optimistic. And then you bring in Nick Wayne and AR Fox and that history too, because all of that is wrapped together, right? I'm like, they got it. They figured it out.
AR Fox comes in. AR Fox goes out. Nick Wayne comes in. Nick Wayne goes out. Or is heading out. Yeah.
There's a lot of politics that messed up the AR Fox thing. And I'm, it's kind of sad to hear if you believe that stuff. I do. I tend to believe that particular story because AR Fox isn't big enough for them to like make conspiracy theories about, to be honest.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, so I do think that Swerve, Heyman working each other for a couple of matches, maybe leading into Grand Slam in New York or something like that, gives you a nice storyline. But I'm with you; the matches will be great, and this is where we are with AEW and where we've always been. Great matches, but do they really elevate? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Each other after it's over.
Totally.
I will be remiss, and it's 9:00, and I know we started late. I will be remiss though if we don't go back a little bit, because everything happened so fast, and this was a particularly fast week. And so we didn't even talk about All Out. We didn't even talk about the Sunday pay-per-view. That was really good.
Really good.
Really good. And I was, you know me, I was barking last week about it being too soon. I didn't like it. I wasn't mad at the card, but I just didn't like kind of what they were asking wrestling fans to do.
Yeah.
And I loved All Out. Really did. I thought it was so good.
It sort of has made, if it wasn't for the Punk Jack Perry backstage incident, All In would be All In London, 81,000 biggest event, is almost a complete afterthought by now. And if it wasn't for like Punk, I mean, you were gonna have that because of a lot of circumstances this year. This is interesting though, as more than television ratings.
Okay.
What concerns me in that vein is 81,000 at Wembley. They get the United Center for All Out 10,000. And some of the sites I follow on Twitter is like ticket sales for live events. They're set up for, 3,700 in Michigan, 4,200. They're it's like 2 weeks removed from these big events. They can't draw more than 40. They're not even trying to put more than 4,500 in. And, when you compare that to SmackDown going 11,000, 14,000, again, I don't think they're competition anymore, WWE and AEW. They're just sort of both in the same business. But like that sort of hurts me more than seeing, oh man, only 350,000 tuned in for Collision. It's like, man, AEW can only put in 3,700 people. Like they need to get to 6,000. I mean, that's what I aspire AEW to care about more. Again, they
probably do. They probably do care about that more. But
yeah, it's those sort of things which worry me.
So, what was the number for All Out in Chicago? Do we know?
I think about 10,000.
And it was a great. Here's the thing: it was a great show. We still have to talk about. I want to stick to the like it, don't like it type questions for you for this episode. But let's just jump to what I think is one of the biggest stories in AEW right now, Orange Cassidy. What a like it, love it. It can't be don't like it. Orange Cassidy, where are you with him right now?
I didn't have the opportunity to say it last week, even though I thought about it last week. You want your leader in the clubhouse for MVP of 2023 for AEW? Orange Cassidy.
Orange Cassidy. John Moxley was 22.
Yeah, I mean,
Orange Cassidy's 23.
And MJF, honestly, you could have that title too, but it's OC, man. It's OC.
What a run he's on.
Yes, and everything, the story they have told about him, and they alluded to it during his matches because you can't. It's the elephant in the room. This is someone who came in a couple of years ago, and his gimmick was he didn't wrestle, and he still has that same gimmick, but he is now wrestling more and showing up, and the way is evolved. I mean, he's always been loved by the fans. changing his music back to Jane, which was his sort of indie music, was a huge boost for him. And this run they gave him with the international title, like, was fantastic. The right person took it from him at the right time. I have no problem with Moxley having that title and making it as relevant as Orange Cassidy did. But man, MVP and these two brief Orange Cassidy promos that he gave, which were vintage Orange Cassidy,
so good,
are
so
fantastic. Good. He sells merch. He's obviously dedicated to the product. He's probably one. I mean, he seems to be one of the few guys that is traveling on to wherever they go. What, travel to 3 places a week? Is that what they do? Or maybe it's even 2 places a week now. Somewhere, or 3, yeah, because they got to record. I don't know their recording exactly, but yeah, they do 2 shows, Dynamite and Collision on Wednesday. Saturday they do, but yeah, wherever they go, he's traveling full time. He's got no weeks off. I mean, super kudos to Orange Cassidy. I'm all for it, and I can't wait for his title run that he'll inevitably title pursuit in probably, I'm going to say 2024. He'll be one of MJF's opponents in early 24.
Well, that was my question. Now that he had the run is ended. Hell of a match at All Out.
Yeah.
With Jon Moxley, one of my favorite of the year. And I guess my question is, he loses the belt but elevates his status. Where does he go moving forward?
He's almost one of these guys that you compare these like lifers in WWE to, where like he's now at a point where he doesn't need a belt. He doesn't even, because he's been on so much and did so good. You can miss him for a week or 2, but he'll still show up because that's what his promo said. He'll be there every single week. He can do it on his own. He's reached that status right now. He'll lose it at some point. He can cruise the rest of the year, and no matter where they put him, opening match, middle of the card, just a vignette, he's going to be gold for the rest of the year. I think he has some, because I predicted him to face MJF later, after maybe early 2024, he's going to find a tag team partner and go. And I think for a few weeks, I don't think his best friend's run's going to go for a while, but there'll be something for Orange Cassidy that's going to keep us intrigued each time he's on. I have no doubt. I'm as sure about Orange Cassidy right now as all but one other person on the roster. And gold. You agree, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. I think Orange Cassidy is just at the
MVP.
Yeah. And I would want him, honestly, to take some time off, but he's just too hot. I think it's impossible. I think he's too hot to take time off.
Yeah, he's at that stat when Darby was at his hottest. That's where OC is now.
Yeah. You got to use him, and I think they're using him great. And I just loved it. Like, there's a part of the match with Moxley where I was just like, dude, he's gonna come out of this thing. He's actually they're gonna have him come out of this thing. And if he did, I was like, straight to MJF immediately if he comes out of this.
OC Ricky Starks is a feud that you could have Ricky go over a bunch on OC and it would still elevate them both. I'd like to see that personally.
Interesting. All right. Well, we did talk about OC, who I agree with you. What do you do with Mox now that he is the Mid Atlantic, whatever it's called,
international champion? Yeah. He seems perfect for it because he is international. He goes, everywhere, all over the world, all the time. I bet. Well, I don't know what his schedule is. He hasn't made as many like indie stops lately as he was doing even a handful of months ago. Hasn't shown up on GCW in a while or these other promotions. It'd be great if he took that international title and hit the indie scene for a bit and started hitting all these other places with that international title. But for television, for AEW, he's going to probably for a while run through the Pentas and the Andrades, if Andrade ever comes back again, and a lot of these other guys. I'd love to see Moxley go against a guy like Keith Lee if they want to find some new face. He'd be a great way because of the way Orange Cassidy defended that title week after week. Mox, who will probably not have as heavy a schedule, although Mox shows up every week too.
He does. He shows up every week.
He's always there. So he's a fine person to have that title. It's not going to lose prestige because BCC is pretty over, and Mox is incredibly over.
I was going to ask you this too, because if you really did notice, BCC has ended several AEW nights now kind of standing tall. Like, if you looked at All In and All Out, BCC stands tall at these end of the nights. And now it does seem like Danielson, at one point it was like Danielson was kind of doing his own thing, but it seems like now Danielson's back. You see him with Claudio, you see him with Wheeler, you see him with BCC. You know what I mean? It kind of seems like they're back intact, and they are, I would assume, the most dominant faction, correct? In all of AEW, right? They're standing tall at the end of the night.
Feels like it. House of Black, even while they had the titles, they weren't really tearing through anybody. People were challenging them. There hasn't been a great House of Black storyline either, and I hope that changes too. And the Elite isn't the most dominating faction.
That's what it was with BCC and the Elite.
BCC is, has been doing what Judgment Day and WWE is sort of finally doing.
I love it. I love that. I love both of them. It was kind of, the timing was a little bit long for me on BCC. Like, it took them a really long time to get there. But I'm okay that they're there. I am okay that they're there. And
they're being used right.
And if Danielson's back in the fold, it really does make them really formidable. Like Claudio, he doesn't take any losses, right? Danielson, Mox doesn't really take losses either. I mean, we do laugh. It's a running joke now. It's like, if Yuta takes a pin like all the time.
Did you see Yuta getting beat by Claudio in that backstage interview?
And then Eddie's like, "That's real cute. Like, you can beat up Yuta. Everybody beats up Yuta."
Mox and Eddie in New York next week. Next month. I'll take that.
All right. Let's talk about the champ, because now it looks like he's
finally.
Is this where you're going to get vindicated?
Finally letting me do my humble brag.
All right, that's what I was waiting for you to get there.
Yeah, there we go.
But it does look like now they're running. Now it's going to be Samoa Joe. Is that what it's looking like? It's looking like Samoa Joe and MJF. Yep. I love it. I can't love it more.
That's why
I'm okay with the Adam Cole, but it's over now. And if it's Samoa Joe, more menacing to me, more dangerous, more violent, I'll take it.
The Cole thing's far from over, but yes. And here's where I'll do my humble brag. MJF was so good, and is so good at being such a heel. His crowd interaction is top notch. I say it every week. He is everything he says he is, a generational talent. Yes. Up until this point has been just a crazy heel that everyone hated. He was so good at it that, like in the history of wrestling, when heels are such good heels, they start becoming low-key faces with a large segment of the crowd. Well, the pairing of Adam Cole was brilliant. And once it started to turn and look like, oh, it won't be what everyone sort of originally thought, because this was said on this show by people other than me. There is no way they're going to turn him babyface. And I was one of the first few to say.
Did I say it? I might have said it.
You might have said it. Months ago, I said this about MJF. He is so good that, as good a heel as he is, it's going to be just as easy for when that flip needs to be switched for him to be the most over face. And I remember that was met with some, ooh, really? I don't know. He is so good at everything he does. And it appears, it was even like sketchy for a few weeks. Like, are they really pulling the trigger on this face turn? And then it became like, shouldn't he, from like a character standpoint? They have mixed all these stories together perfectly. The history with Joe and MJF is already there. People will say, if you have that many references from the other company in one promo, does it take away? No, I'm fine with it. I love it. I have no problem referencing the past at all. The way Adam Cole and Roderick Strong, who I'm really not 100% in on this whiny neck brace character.
Stupid, hate it.
Don't like it, but
don't like it at all. Because he's good.
Right.
I don't like it at all. They're wasting him.
Well, he's being used nicely because of the way the storyline is, and I didn't really put it together until sort of mid Dynamite last night. The fact that Joe was the one who broke Roderick Strong's neck in the Owen
Mm-hmm.
Hart Championship,
Mm-hmm.
and Adam Cole didn't save him in time. Now Adam Cole, now Smojo's about to break MJF's neck. Cole comes out in the nick of time.
Yeah.
That is a perfect, amazing storyline.
This strikes at your sensibilities. Like a
It
person like
is
you,
right
this
there.
is chef kiss for you.
Enough,
Most people won't understand.
enough history, enough callback.
Yeah.
It really is chef's kiss. And
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, just play it out perfectly. You've made the turn. Like they've got all the chess pieces lined up. And yeah, I have a way that I envision I want to see it that'll make me the most excited. And it seemed
You want to share it with the audience?
I think it can go one of two ways. Joe might win that title in New York. I don't think so, but
I don't think so.
But I think with how good I think they're still going to pull off a Cole turn with the Kingdom, and I think if you had to make me bet who's going to take that title from MJF, if it was either Joe or Cole, I'm still saying Cole for now.
Okay.
But getting sort of lightning in a bottle with Joe and Roderick has added this layer to what has been for the last 4 or 5 months, has taken over from the Bloodline as the best story in wrestling. And one of the main reasons, probably the main reason I tune in every week, my son Eli, who's behind me, who's currently playing 2K23, he has actually started to make his turn, gotten back into wrestling, and is now more interested in the AEW storylines than the WWE storylines, and I think that's big. Did we lose cheats? Did I just do all that and we don't have cheats now? Well, I'll run with it. If you're out there, give us your comments about what happened with MJF. What do you think about it? Is he as good a face as he is a good a heel? And I'm just going to vamp until Cheats comes back online. There he is. I was vamping.
Yeah, we're losing you on the connection issues. We've got a lot of storms going through the East Coast, by the way.
I lost you. Did you lose me?
Yeah, we lost you for a second because we had a lot of storms going on the East Coast.
You were frozen for a while, but we're all back together. We're still good.
All right, we're back together. You were saying you were the last thing I saw was your son Eli,
who is now getting sort of back into wrestling. He is playing 2K23, but we watched some Dynamite last night, and he was asking me about sort of the storylines, about what I'm interested in, and I was singing him MJF's praises. And by this afternoon, he was sending me MJF videos to my phone. So
perfect.
He's going to be an
generational talent.
Yeah, generational talent. He said he's just acting right now like he disagrees, but he wants to be on the WWE show and gives opinions on 2K23 next week. So we may do that. But
you should do that.
He is getting back into wrestling, and that excites me.
That's awesome. That sounds so good.
So what are you in agreement that like what they're doing with MJF is perfect, and he probably is?
Yeah, I'm on board. I mean, it's not hard to be on board with MJF right now. Exactly. I thought the Adam Cole storyline did take over wrestling as the best storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the what is it, Better Than You, Baby, is still right now currently kind of the best storyline going in wrestling. I will admit, and I've admitted to you and some others, my WWE interest has waned quite a bit in recent weeks. It's just a lot to keep up with, and I kind of chose to keep up with AEW. But the Better Than You, Baby storyline going into All In was, to me, just the best storyline going today. It could be the Judgment Day on the other side. It could be, because they're great too. Mm-hmm. But I was a huge fan of that. And so we say all that to say the real challenge and really the genius of these long title runs, like historically long title runs, is how do you keep the story interesting? A story that is got to be a roller coaster, right? If you're talking about the whole arc of a title run, it's got to be a roller coaster where you're hot, you're cold, you're hot, but you still are the champion through this whole time. It's very rare that you go from hot to hot to hot to hot. Yeah. And so that's some of the genius, if you will, of some of these really long title runs that we've seen, especially in recent situations. You either have one dominant storyline like the bloodline that kind of runs through this thing, or it's just like you got to figure this thing out. When they put the belt on MJF, and I remember you saying this, it was, hey, look, this is it now. The time was right. They put the belt on him, and you said, and I believe I'm quoting, the MJF era is beginning.
Yeah.
And so so we had to figure out, right, what the MJF era, especially if it's going to be as long of a title run as we all thought it was going to be. Like, we're going to be here a while. And you had to tick off these kind of challenges on the list.
A list that MJF has provided us.
Right. But you got to also build it up and make it interesting.
Yeah.
And so I thought the Cole build up and kind of storyline and so forth, and it could be a long woven storyline through all of this, is the Cole stuff. I thought it was really, really genius. And if you're going to transition in any way from the Cole kind of story immediately to have another immediate foil, you can't pick a better one than Samoa Joe. I love, it's all tied in still. The Kingdom, Roderick Strong. I just love what they're doing with it. And I do think you need to have this type of thing at least to carry you through 23. With like, I mean, I don't know if you give, like, I would hate for MJF to drop the belt. To answer your question, I would hate for MJF to drop the belt to Joe. I need it to get to a place where it's a palatable match, like a really, really big match that's built up, and then we put MJF out there and see what happens.
What I'm interested in, because when the inevitable Cole turn happens and he aligns himself with the Kingdom.
Yes. And Roderick. Yep.
Right. I don't think he needs it, but it will be interesting who MJF's next friend's going to be.
You want me to give me a suggestion?
Well, I do want to hear a suggestion. However, I just want to say that, MJF does not need that. He is fine. I mean, he is fine going out there by himself and being a one man. But like, from a storyline, he's now in a position, even at 27 years old, where he can actually give someone the rub. People can get on the MJF train and make their careers now. And I think there are a host of people who could fill that role, but like, there'll be a point during that turn when someone's going to come out from down that aisle and help MJF.
I don't know who helps MJF. I don't. But I will tell you this. I don't think this particular Adam Cole, MJF, Kingdom, Roderick Strong, I don't think this story ends without Kyle O'Reilly being involved.
Yeah, I hope so. If Kyle O'Reilly's able to come back.
I think Kyle O'Reilly comes back and either he helps out Roderick, you know what I mean? Helps out the Kingdom, and then MJF, and also Adam Cole turns. I think we see basically, outside of Bobby Fish, Undisputed Era come back and the Kingdom be there.
I love
Adam Cole leads it somehow, and maybe very much like we've seen throughout history of the annals of history in wrestling, maybe it's MJF is the only guy that can stop that faction.
I don't think this guy probably deserves it, even though I could be talked into that he does. Someone that we haven't seen for a long time, but is due to come back.
Can I guess? I know
you do. Who has history with MJF?
Yes.
Who do you got?
Wardlow.
I gave a lot. I prefaced it with a lot by saying, like,
you did.
But however, remember some of the stuff Wardlow can do. A lot of his, his ability.
I love Wardlow.
He's great. He will be someone who you wouldn't expect, who you haven't seen in a long time. If his music started playing in the middle of a Adam Cole beatdown on MJF in the next 2 or 3 months, I think that feels like a professional wrestling storyline to me.
I love it. I love Kyle O'Reilly. I love Wardlow. I love it all. They have, again, it's an embarrassment of riches over there in AEW.
It is.
They've got, and like, we did all of this, and there's still so much we haven't talked about. We won't have time to really get into all of it, but I still argue, and I would argue with you or anybody that's listening, that the biggest heel in the company is Christian Cage.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree. I mean, you and I have been lined up.
Love this guy.
You and I right now are in sync when it comes to our feelings about AEW.
Yeah.
We're both optimistic. We're both I'm feeling it. I did not think I would feel that way, post Punk, because I'm definitely a pro Punk guy. The Elite doesn't appear to be overtaking AEW like a bunch of, I never thought this, but a lot of worried Punk fans thought it's going to go the way of of a super kick party. So far, that hasn't happened.
Nope.
I think smartly that hasn't happened. Whatever they end up doing with Jack Perry is not going to move the needle either way. You bring them back, you get rid of them, not going to move the needle. They find themselves surprisingly on level footing post CM Punk. We're very small sample size, but I think you and I are vets enough in this business to know they appear to be setting up some things that can make AEW have a big bounce back quarter and put them on a real positive streak going into next year.
AEW is getting interesting. That's what it is. They've always had the wrestling talent. They're getting interesting on the creative side. They're starting to finally put together some of these storylines. We just talked on this hour about multiple storylines that have the ability to gain traction.
Yeah, and we basically, I think, for the most part, covered just about the main ones. I think they're going to use Bullet Club Gold correctly. Jay White.
That was the one we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about Acclaimed and Bullet Club Gold, and those are in House of Black. There's an embarrassment of riches over there. They're doing some weird things with Lucha Brothers, and they have Preston Vance and what's the other guy, Andrade's guy in like Mexico. They're doing some weird vignettes. You know what I mean? Like
Ingobernables.
They're starting to figure some things out.
Need to get Roosh figured out a little bit more, feature him more prominently.
Yeah.
I don't know why Andrade has suddenly disappeared again, but like if they need kind of all hands on board, they need to actually have a unified vision together.
I don't think they can. I think the company's too scatterbrained. Because again, we'll have to cut this out because we're cutting to the end here. But like, as much as we talked about the things that are going well, and I think there's a lot that are going well, I love Sammy. Get Sammy back involved. Like Sammy Guevara. I love there's so much talent, right? Like there's so much talent that they could, and I get Tony's love with Mexico and Tony's love with New Japan. I get it. I don't necessarily need to see Commander every week. Like I don't. I get it. I don't need to see. I think what's his name, Vingho, or you know what I mean. I think he's
El Vecchino. Yeah,
I think he's super talented. I don't necessarily need to see him every week, especially if you're not going to give him a storyline. Because I feel like it feels to me like, especially that guy's like a rent a guy. Like he just shows up, gives a couple flippy flips, and it's a pop. There's never a storyline in his matches, right? And Commander's usually getting a pin. So here's the thing. For the first time, though, I think you're right. I want to end on a positive note because I am really loving where AEW is right now. Coming out of All In, coming out of All Out, coming out of the Punk fiasco, coming out of like where we are, I think they have put together some really, really good stuff. They're still trying to figure out Jay Lethal. I haven't seen Scorpio Sky very much.
They figured out Jay Lethal. That is where Jay Lethal is right now. That is figured out.
We didn't talk about Dennis Rodman.
Good.
But they've got so much stuff happening. They've got so much. We didn't talk about the returning CJ Perry. They've got so much stuff happening in AEW that, we can go a whole hour, talk about a ton of storylines, and never even talk about the tag champs. So there's just so much going on over there.
All right, we need to do a Sunday podcast then. AEW, we expand to 2 shows. I know. I also want to thank all of our friends and supporters who support our show. Guys like Doug, guys like Jack and Flobo, all of our guys who help promote us for this show and online, and just are good positive influences in the wrestling world. When I read their stuff on Twitter, those are the guys you should be following.
And I got Victor Perry. You didn't
And our guy Victor Perry.
Make sure I got Victor Perry.
Victor Perry's doing great, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have to tap it out there. We're up against the hour. Hey, a lot of all over the place, but I appreciate you guys bearing with us, bearing with me especially, because there's always a lot going on. On that count, we will count it out. 1, 2, 3. Until next time. See you, Eli.